Hello, hello, JUSTJEM here and welcome, or indeed welcome back to my channel. It is time for a very, very overdue what do I think now? But I'm just going to go straight into it. First on my list is the Danessa Myricks Beauty Freedom Palette, which you can still get at the moment. If you've seen my demo of the Everyday Magic palette, you might have some ideas already as to how I feel about this particular palette. I do like the formula, I have to say. I do like Danessa's formula, I just do. I know a lot of people don't rave necessarily about her duochromes and multichromes because if you're an indie lover, this will be nothing new to you. And perhaps for me, one of the reasons why I am quite happy with this formula is because I was introduced to this around the same time as I got into indie brands. So to me, I don't necessarily find them superior. I feel like they're on par. But if you've been using indie brands for years and years and years, a duochrome and a multichrome isn't necessarily going to wow you. So that's fair enough. This one is part of that ecosystem with Lightwork 6 and Lightwork 7. I think for the price point, it's somewhat disappointing that it's 3 mattes and 3 shimmers. And I make a similar point about the Everyday Magic, which, I mean, that will come in a different what do I think now. And I feel that there are sort of pros and cons to each one. And, you know, if you're debating which one to get, it's going to boil down to whether or not you think 50-50 mattes and shimmers is worth the money, and colour story. That's probably what it's going to be. I think, like, one thing I will say, I think this is definitely, I mean, it's very washed out. Should you switch that off for a moment so you can see it better? This, I think, is much more of a companion and an extension to the Lightwork series than Everyday Magic is. I think Everyday Magic holds up on its own more than this one. I can definitely get singular looks from this. I've done a number of singular looks using this. But I think because of the nature of the shades involved, you're just going to be a bit limited to what you can do. It's 3 relatively light mattes, albeit with some very beautiful shimmers, but it is restricted. However, if you've bought this as an extension to the Freedom ecosystem, you're probably not going to be overly fussed by the fact that it's potentially, or it could be considered, an incomplete colour story. And I'm not saying it's necessarily incomplete, I just feel like it could have more, but it's £6, so you're going to be limited. I have had fun with this. I think you can see it's pretty well loved, pretty well used there. I've been meaning to do a lot more mixing and matching with 6, 7, but I haven't got round to that yet, like really getting into mixing and matching, which is what this series is all about. And I do want to do that. Maybe I'll do a video here or there where I have a bit of mixing and matching and I kind of demo what you can do across the ecosystem. And I want to try and do that before there's a potential Lightwork 8. It'll be very interesting to see what Lightwork 8 involves. I would imagine she's going to keep going with this ecosystem, so it's going to be about different colour stories. And considering that 6 was particularly bright and colourful and quite rainbow-esque, and then 7 was more towards the neutral side, I'll be very interested to see where 8 falls. And I think going forward, I'll be more discerning about any expansions that I pick up. Everyday Magic isn't technically an expansion, it's a mini curation of shades already in 7, so that is something to bear in mind. But if there's anything that comes later, I don't think I will jump to buy it in the same way I did this. I almost bought this without thinking, and not that I regret it. I think if I had considered it just a little bit longer, I'm not sure I would have picked it up. But as I say, that's not to say that I regret it, because I have used it. I am using it. I do enjoy it. And I hope that's kind of been useful if you're eyeing this up, and especially because it is still around. It doesn't seem to be limited edition in the way the bigger palettes are. I think it's pretty, but I just don't know if it's necessarily worth shelling out for unless you can get it on a sale. Don't pay full price for it. I don't think I even paid full price. I think I did get a discount on this, but don't pay full price for this is what I would say. And while it's nice, I don't think I'd be missing out by not having it. Next up is Glaminatrix Nearly Natural, and I've got to say off the bat, I love the packaging of this. So it's like a pink faux leather with some embossing on there. I don't know how well you can see that, hopefully you can. This is the colour story inside. I'll start by saying I cannot fault the formula. I think Glaminatrix is a brand that excels when it comes to their formula, and their shimmers are beautiful. They've got some really intense sort of sparkle on there. They've got a variety of different formulas, some that are a bit more toppery. The shade Smolder in there, so that's this shimmer here. It's a baked shade. Not baked in the way that you might sort of look at Pat McGrath shadows and her bake shadows in the motherships, but maybe I'll just give it a swatch here. There's just something about this shade that I really, really like, and I hope you'll be able to... It's like molten metal, the way it kind of behaves and the way it looks. It's, yeah, I just really like that shade Smolder. I think it's great. What I would say is, with this palette, I wish I'd had a crystal ball and had known that the Old Soul was coming. Because if I'd known that the Old Soul was coming, I probably wouldn't have gone for Nearly Natural. I feel like I'm very negative in this, what do I think now? But the Old Soul is more me. The gradient goes a little bit too light for my personal preference. Like, I don't know how much I'd reach for sort of these two here unless I was using them as an inner corner highlight. I'm not averse to a matte as an inner corner highlight. I'm rocking that look now. But I do think that these shades here wouldn't get as much love, possibly even up to barely there. I think that could just about go on the lid for me, like in the crease area. And then I'm not a huge fan of these mustardy tones. Like, I mean, they suit me well enough, just personal sort of preference wise. And I did weigh this all up when I bought it, but I was swayed by the formula and the beautiful shimmers, so that's why I went for it. And really it's just 4 shades that I'm a bit meh about, and I do really like the rest of it. But I do wish I'd held out and just got the Old Soul, and now I'm genuinely debating decluttering this and getting the Old Soul. And it's not even because this is a bad palette. It's not a bad palette at all. It's beautiful. I just think I would reach for the Old Soul more. I don't have the Old Soul, but I'm going back and forth. I'm going back and forth. If you're watching and you have this and the Old Soul, you'll have to let me know which one you prefer. And it is going to boil down to personal preference. As I say, if it wasn't for these two here and these two, and you know, maybe if it was a bit more of a condensed colour story in the way the Old Soul is, because I think that's £15, whereas this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 20. So yeah, I do just think I'd get more use out of the Old Soul. Other than that, I do think it's a solid palette, I really do. And if it's a palette that you have and it rates highly in your collection, I'm not surprised by that. And I'm sure there are people who absolutely love this palette and have no notes. I just happen to have some notes, and I'm debating. I'll see how I go. Next up is Desert Haze from Beauty Bay. And I don't know if you can even still get this. So for a little while, we didn't have Beauty Bay at all. Beauty Bay went bust temporarily, but they've had a bailout, or they've been sold and bought by someone else. So Beauty Bay are back, but this is one of the limited editions that I don't think you can get anymore. And to be honest, I think this is one that I am just going to declutter. I've got this colour story already in the form of Metropolis from Natasha Denona, and I am yet to do a look using this that hasn't creased. I don't know why, because I don't get it with other Beauty Bay palettes, but this one creases like an absolute bitch. I have tried everything. Have you seen any of my sort of longevity tests? Maybe I'll pull off some and I'll put the footage in so you can see. This is Beauty Bay Desert Haze on my eyes. So I've done a first impressions. Spoiler alert, there's some creasing. And I haven't had this on for very long. I think I filmed this around 6 PM. It's not even 10 PM yet. And like, you can see that. That's my creasy lid. And you can see that area there. So I don't know what's happened there, because I don't believe I've had creasing from Beauty Bay shadows before. Not that I can recall. Different lighting, because I don't think you could see how creased my lids are right now from the lighting that I was in before. I think you can see that major gapping there. And this is like my normal lid. And then my double fold lid, I think you can see it. It's just all where it looks patchy, because it is patchy, because it's just creasing. It's just a big old crease fest there. I think you can see it better from this angle. This is Beauty Bay Desert Haze, and I knew it would crease, because the first time I used it and didn't even have it on for as long as I have today, it creased. But I've used different shadows today, because I just wanted to check it out, and yeah, it's just a creasy palette. It's frustrating because I really like this look. I think it's really, really pretty, but yeah, crease central. Every time I've used this palette, it's creased. I've done no base. I've tried it just with the Danessa Nude Fix. I've tried it with the NYX Glitter Primer. I've tried it with more of a gel, like glitter adhesive. Nothing works. Always creases. And I wondered if maybe the formula had been switched up, but I've got a Beauty Bay palette that will come in my next, what do I think now? It's the Dark Lights palette. No issues with that formula. But this one, and it is a shame, because I do like this colour story. There are some really pretty shades in here, but it just creases. I also have to question why they've included Sahara and Desert Rose, because to me there is just no need to have both. This one is Sahara and this is Desert Rose. I mean, there's a very minute difference, but not a difference that you're gonna see on the eye. And if anyone could tell the difference between those two shades on your lids, quite frankly, they are invading your personal space and they should not be that close to you. Okay? There's just no need for both of those in a £20 palette. Desert Haze for me was a huge disappointment, and I am going to declutter that. There's no point in me keeping that because I'll never reach for it because the shades do not last on my lids. So disappointing purchase there from Beauty Bay, which is unusual because they normally knock it out the park. They're normally great value for money, and for the price point they've got an excellent formula, but for some reason the formula in Desert Haze just does not hold up at all. Next up is Smolder from Cosmic Beauty, and again I feel like I'm a Debbie Downer at the moment in this. I did go back and forth over whether or not to buy this because it didn't shout at me, it didn't jump out at me, and I think if this was released now I'd skip right past it. I wouldn't pick it up. And that's not to say, again, I can't fault the formula, it's more the colour story, and even then I can still agree it's a pretty colour story, but it's not one of the best that Cosmic have done. And I can dupe this. There are some shades in Nearly Natural, which I've just said I could potentially declutter, but if you look at the video I did, I also compared it to Smoky and I want to say the Neutral palette from Beauty Bay. And I can appreciate that those are ginormous because it was the £42 that I did comparisons with. But if you've got those, you wouldn't need these. You wouldn't. What I will say with Smolder is that it does have some pretty cool special shades in there. Ignite, which I'm gonna swatch for you there, is probably the shade that swayed me, and Embers was a close second. So this is Ignite and this is Embers. There we go. Funny enough, Embers looks to be in the same family as those two shades from Sahara there a little bit. If I turn that on, does that... It's probably a bit too bright, isn't it? I think it's better without the light. Oh, I don't know. You'll have to let me know. No, Embers is more impressive, 100%. Yes, even looking at these now, I think those are stunning. But just overall, if I think not just about my Cosmic palettes, but all the palettes that I have overall, this is going to be something that I would reach for the least. And I think another thing for me is that a lot of the shades are quite mid-toned. The deepest one in here is that black Chemistry. So what I found was my looks were getting to be a bit samey when I used this, partly because I was always drawn to the same shades anyway, and partly because it's just quite mid the range there. There's not a lot of depth in this palette. Would I declutter this in the way that I would declutter Desert Haze, or the way I'm considering decluttering Nearly Natural? Possibly not, because I've got that many Cosmic Beauty palettes. I don't know, there's that collectionist slash completionist in me probably wouldn't want to let this one go. But to me, out of the Cosmic Brushes palettes that I've tried, that's just probably the least exciting. But that's just based on the colour story. It was a bit of an impulse buy, probably shouldn't have bought it, and I know I wouldn't buy it now if it came out. Finally feel like I can be a bit more positive. So this hasn't been intentional, I think I've just done these in the order that I've tried these palettes. Poison Garden, Bella Beauty Bar. I have wanted this palette for I couldn't tell you how long. I think the first time I laid eyes on it, the first time I ever knew that a brand existed called Bella Beauty Bar, and they had a palette called Poison Garden, and I saw the colour story. It was a must have I was drawn to it immediately. Imagine my disappointment when I got this palette and it just kept creasing on me. Nothing I seemed to try would stop it from creasing until I realised this does not like sticky adhesives. The NYX glitter primer they don't get on. They're not friends at all. I found that as long as I just put the Danessa Myricks Nude Colour Fix, either 8 or 9, whatever I fancy. I lean towards 8 because that's more neutral and neutralises my lids and blocks them out nicely. That's enough of a base to ensure that these are happy and that they stay on my lids all day. Since I found that out, I've been loving this palette. I've been loving playing with it, and I think it's stunning. I think every time I've showed this palette in whatever I'm doing, I always have to swatch Wisteria. Today's no exception, so I'm going to swatch Wisteria for you and Belladonna, because why not? There is Wisteria, and that is Belladonna there. Now I know how to work with the Bella Beauté Bar formula. I think I'm going to have a great time with this brand. I have since purchased Unoriginal Nudes. Haven't even touched that one yet, I'm ashamed to say, but I will get round to it. I've got a lot of catching up to do, and because I don't seem to be interested in buying anything new, I think now's probably the time that I'm going to catch up on a lot of the palettes that I haven't got around to yet. If you have any Bella Beauté Bar products and you've been struggling with creasing, my advice would be less is more. Just don't apply a traditional tacky base or eyeshadow primer. And I suspect that if you're someone who uses concealer to prime your lids, you may also get creasing, so I'd avoid that too. Try to use something that's more mattifying and evens out your lids, and I think you'll probably have a better time with Bella Beauté Bar. Loving that, highly recommend it, definitely. Last but not least, and I'll probably talk about these at the same time, I don't even know if you can still get Poppy Storm, because I think Poppy Storm might be the first or one of the first releases that Titanium Foxes did, and I didn't buy this straight away. I think I've commented before that for some unknown reason I didn't buy the Poppy bundle. I bought Grackle Chat with Poppy Quiet, and then I bought this with, it's Jay's Joy, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know why I did that. I should have bought the Bird bundle and I should have bought the Poppy bundle, but I didn't. I split them. So that's Poppy Storm, and this is Jay's Joy there. I love Titanium Foxes. I don't know what voodoo or magic Clara has put into these palettes, but they bowl me over every time. I don't think I've seen a single Titanium Foxes palette that has been released that I haven't immediately seen and thought, ooh, I might have to have that. I like Jay's Joy because it reminds me a little bit of, funny enough, the sister to Poppy Storm, but it reminds me of Poppy Quiet, but with more richness, more depth to it. I was gonna nitpick and be a bit finicky about Poppy Quiet. I'd say that there are a few shades that I'd be inclined to sort of gloss over just because of the depth range and not necessarily being my particular preference. I still love that palette, definitely. I think it's beautiful. But if I had to do a choice, if I had to pick one or the other, I probably would lean more towards Jay's Joy. I just think that this is a bit more deep skin tone friendly than Poppy Quiet is. But I still love Poppy Quiet and I'm pleased to have that. Like, I wouldn't consider decluttering that. No, decluttering that. And then when it comes to Poppy Storm, Again, this is another colour story that I think is particularly friendly to those with a deeper skin tone. It's a lovely, rich, deep, dark, sultry colour story that it's just, what would I think, should I do Ray of Light and Poppy Lava from here? Like, look at that. Just, like, this has got like a, I think in the monitor, it might look like a bronzy gold. And then in person, it's got this green shift to it. So it's quite a common shift that we get, you know, that orange and green. But this is, there's something about the way it's done in this palette, which is, I don't know how to explain it. Love it. And let's not leave Jay's Joy out. Shall we do Sparkling Squirrel and Crocus? Just beautiful. I've picked up quite a lot there. I will say that some of the shimmers in the Titanium Foxes palettes can be a bit chunky, just going lightly. I mean, I've just shoved my fingers in there and smeared it all over my hand. But if you just go in a bit lightly, you can pick up less and apply it more smoothly. And I think if you could see some chunk there, I've just smoothed it out and you can see that. And you can see that, you know, I've dug right in there. There's still loads left on my finger. So, I mean, that will go on for days. Excuse my ashy elbows, but I think that's, you can see it's gone all the way down my arm. And I've still got a bit left. Titanium Foxes has just released another palette. In fact, I've got the one after these two, which is Shivering Owls. I got that towards the end of last year and I haven't tried that yet. I've done swatches, spoiler alert, looks good. And they've got a new one out, which is Crying by the Horses, which is their most neutral colour story that they've done. It's kind of like a spicy neutral. And that looks interesting, especially as someone who seems to appreciate neutral tones more these days. Still love my colour. I will always love my colour, but I seem to be drawn a lot more to sort of the more neutral palettes. You know, I've bought Original Nude, I'm eyeing up the Old Soul, now I'm looking at Crying by the Horses. They're grabbing me right now. What I'm doing for that though is I'm waiting to see if there is a sister palette and what that sister palette is, so I can buy them both together, save on shipping. There we have it. Those are my thoughts on some palettes that I tried last year. I couldn't even give you the time frame of when I first used these, but I thought I would come back because some of these you can still get, and just let you know how I've been getting onto them. Let you know how I've been getting on with them. And one of the benefits of it being a long time since I first used these is that I've used them even more than I ordinarily would have done between first using them and filming a What Do I Think Now. These are really well-rounded, thought-out views on this. The same is going to apply for when I next do a What Do I Think Now, and possibly again after that, because I'm slowing down on buying new things. It's not been a conscious choice, it just seems to be how it is. I don't know, give me a month or two and suddenly I'll want to buy all of the palettes. But for now, the only thing on my wish list is Titanium Foxes. I am debating, as I say, the Old Soul and also Merry Chrissy. But then I do have that Christmas palette, Chris Kindle marked from Nomad, and they're similar, but I wonder if they're different enough to have both. I don't know. I suspect I will cave and get those Glamonatrix palettes, but just not yet. Do you have any of these palettes, and what do you think? And do you have any hints and tips to share for when it comes to longevity? For example, you know, what I've found out about Poison Garden. Maybe you have Desert Haze and you can share with me what magical techniques you need to use to get this to not crease. Like, if you have this and it doesn't crease on you, please let me know so I can try 1 or 2 more techniques before this does get decluttered. And I mean, maybe someone else will have better luck. Maybe my eyelids just do not agree with this particular palette. But if you have any tips for longevity on this one, please let me know so I can give it one final try. And after that, if I still can't get it to work, then it's definitely getting decluttered. Definitely. And I think this might be the first palette I would declutter in a What Do I Think now. Having said that, I haven't decluttered it yet, but on my to declutter list is that Made by Mitchell Sunset something palette. I'll shove the picture in the corner so you know which one I'm talking about. But that was a massive disappointment. But before I get rid of that, there's a green shade in there that I really like. So I think I want to depot that, and then the rest of it's going in the bin. I don't think I'd even give that to someone else, especially not after I've taken the best shade out of the palette. Yeah, that's what I think of these here palettes after using them for some months. As always, thank you for taking the time to watch. I hope that sitting down and going through what I think of these palettes now has been useful, and I also hope to see you again in a video in the not too distant future. Take care. Bye. These are like weird, if I can speak, get my words out.